hand side, you will see Ecom Experts, and you will be able to listen to the replay. But I know we have a lot going on today, so actually what I'm going to do, instead of waiting for this to pop up because the internet's a little bit slow, I am going to switch over the controls. And Morgan, you're the president of Power My Analytics. I have to ask you, how in the heck did you get involved in this whole crazy e-commerce online world? Oh, am I still here? Oh. Hello, 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 hello. Am I still here?
Shauna, this is Morgan. Hey, I apologize. I'm having some audio issues here, and I didn't get that question. I don't know if anybody else is having any, but
yeah, I think
coming through really bad.
Yeah, I think mine kind of cut out a little bit. I am trying to switch over my connection from the cell to wireless, so that way, hopefully.
Yeah, I've gotten confirmation we're having some audio issues, at least coming from your side, maybe because you're on the road.
Well, let's see if this gets it over to you, and we can have you go ahead and get started.
Okay. If you'd like, I'd be happy to jump in and start the session. And if you have any questions. Sure, absolutely. If we continue to have audio challenges between you and I, feel free to chat them to me. I can repeat your questions to the audience and then answer them as well. I think we could try to.
Perfect.
If somebody cannot see my screen, please let me know via chat. You should see a PowerPoint presentation that says setting up Yahoo Store's Google Analytics integration. Okay, so no response back, so I assume that everybody is able to see my screen. So if you missed the talk yesterday on Webmaster Radio, we talked a little bit about Google Analytics, introduced it to the audience. For those that may have not be familiar with Google Analytics or maybe have heard about it but were not aware of the pricing and the setup, and we also put a pretty tight focus on a Yahoo Stores type client there, since we know the audience has quite a few Yahoo Stores out there. So today's talk is going to be around Google Analytics, but it's also going to be a little bit specific to Yahoo Stores. But a lot of the discussion can be used in And the benefit to having it higher on the page is it's more guaranteed to fire on the page, and it will allow you to get better reliability on your tracking. And I see we just ran into an issue. I think I'm no longer the presenter, so I'm going to keep talking, but will probably put me back as presenter in just a moment. So the code that I did just show everybody there just a moment ago, that code ideally goes in the head tag, but it can go anywhere. Sometimes It's a challenge to put that code somewhere else on the site if you just don't have a good template that supports putting it in the head tag. And just to mention, as we talked about yesterday, this code is what's called asynchronous code, and what that means is the code will fire along with all the rest of the content on your site at the same time. So it doesn't, I know several years ago there was a lot of concern about, oh, my Google Analytics tracking code, what if there's something wrong with it and it's up high on the page and it doesn't load and there's a delay, will it delay the rest of my site from loading? With this asynchronous tracking code, it's not an issue. By the way, it was never really an issue ever, because the old code had a timeout very quickly. It was like fraction of a second. If it didn't fire, it would time out and your page content would load, and the most it would be a delay is a couple, maybe tenths of a second, not pretty much insignificant. What the asynchronous tracking code actually has no impact whatsoever on page loading, because, as I mentioned, it fires while the rest of your content fires at the same time. So you should be seeing my screen again with this tracking code. This is a simple code. This code can be placed in the template anywhere on your site, and you get a good chunk of the reporting in Google Analytics. However, from the PowerPoint here, I'm going to kind of talk about, just an overview, because I'm not going to get down to the nuts and bolts of how it works. There are additional things that need to be set up, at least if you want to track e-commerce. And also if you want to be able to track the sources of your revenue, such as a Google CPC campaign. And I'll talk about that right now. The e-commerce tracking, there's examples in Google Analytics, and I'm showing this right now on my screen in the center, in the highlighted area. Shows an example of what type of code you need to send to Google Analytics on the order confirmation page, and only on the order confirmation page, the page in which somebody completes a purchase. There's a lot of information related to the transaction details, such as the revenue, the total sale amount, any tax and shipping, and some geographic information as well. In addition, the product details can be sent to Google Analytics. So you can see what products were purchased and the quantities that were purchased and the total revenue for each product, and the SKU information as well. However, you have to be able to be a pretty good programmer to be able to provide this information to Google Analytics in the fashion that is required. It's not a script you can just copy and paste, for example, like I showed you in the previous code that tracks the visitor information. The e-commerce tracking code actually has to be configured with variables and to loop through the products that were purchased to be able to properly send that data to Google Analytics. So it can be quite challenging with certain carts to be able to provide this. But you might be able to find for your Yahoo Store in a help forum or maybe somewhere else some information that actually provides this code in a modern version that works for you, and you're welcome to try that. The second piece is what's called cross-domain tracking. So if you're on a Yahoo Store, you'll notice that when you're in the shopping experience, you're on your main domain, or the website's main domain. But as soon as you add the cart, you jump into a different domain. And I'll actually show that. We're going to use Marcia Carlson's website. She's been nice enough to share her website information and Google Analytics account with us, Sweet Dreams My Child. And I'll just show you on her site how this takes place here. So you can see in my browser, Sweet Dreams My Child is the domain. If I go and I add something to cart, which I'll do right now, I've all of a sudden, when I added a cart, I jumped over to this other domain called us-dc1-order.store.yahoo.net. So that's a completely different URL. And the way Google Analytics works is it needs to be able to pass all the original cookie information from the old domain, the main domain, sweetdreamsmychild.com, over to the common Yahoo Store, yahoo.net domain. And as I mentioned yesterday, Yahoo has not played well with Google Analytics. There are other shopping carts out there that have enabled the cross-domain tracking to work pretty straightforward. And actually, there's instructions in Google Analytics for how to do that by tagging the links that go across those domains with some additional JavaScript. But the Yahoo Store tracking actually doesn't work that way. There's something in the URL that actually strips out and corrupts the Google Analytics tracking information. You'll notice if you have your tracking information set up, you would see some additional code at the end of this URL that passes the cookies over there. So getting a little technical here, but just want to give you a little background on this, and then also some of the challenges in being able to, with your Yahoo Store, be able to enable all these features that are very powerful, but really take you to the next level in using Google Analytics. So the cross-domain tracking method, I haven't seen it working in any other method except for the method that we use and one or two competitors use from Power My Analytics, which actually requires us to do some heavy handling in a database to pass this information over. But you're welcome to try and to try to invent a solution and make it work there. Or you can spend your time better out there doing things that you do best, such as running your store, merchandising your products, interfacing with your customers, creating a wonderful customer experience, and not trying to do a lot of technical hand-holding. And that's why I'd recommend either you find some other product out there that provides this type of service, or you can use Power My Analytics' Yahoo Store's Google Analytics integration, which actually has a 14-day free trial. And that's for the general public, but we actually have a 30-day free trial for the audience today, and we will send that link out after this webinar with the information to upgrade it to a 30-day free trial. And including that 30-day free trial, we would set up the whole integration for you. So we'd actually go into your Yahoo Store. We would add our code to your site so that you don't even have to include that code there. But if you like, if you prefer to be a little more hands-on, we can provide you the code for your account and have you add that to your site. It's pretty straightforward. It's there's two scripts, one for every page except for the confirmation page, and then one separate code for the confirmation page. And once you use this service, by the way, if there's any changes in the way that Yahoo and Google Analytics work together, the service includes a monitoring of any issues that might take place and any updates that are required for the service there too. So you can be assured that there would be no interruption of the e-commerce and the source of revenue reporting in Google Analytics with the subscription, which is good to have. So you have peace of mind that Google Analytics is capturing the right information that you can use on an ongoing basis to optimize your campaigns, to optimize your traffic, and to make more money. Okay, so since we've now talked through the integration part, we're going to jump into a Google Analytics account. And this is the account for Sweet Dreams My Child. I was going to go over several different functions in Google Analytics in terms of setup. This would be beyond the standard setup of the website, so this would be enhancing some of the reporting. We'll also talk about some of the top reports in Google Analytics, especially for Yahoo stores, where you can get the most information with the least amount of effort that you can use to optimize your campaigns. And we'll talk about some specific challenges to Sweet Dreams My Child that Marcia brought up to me that will help her with this session to try to answer some of her challenging questions. So, as I had mentioned yesterday in the Webmaster Radio talk, there are some enhanced reporting features in Google Analytics that do require some hands-on work to be done. And I'm going to actually set one of those up today. One of the biggest benefits you can get from your shopping cart is the ability to track, in addition to all of your visitors that convert on your website, to get a site conversion rate and be able to report that by different sources of traffic, such as, let's just take a look at it by the way. You can see by source of traffic, the transactions, the revenue. And I'm going to scroll over to the e-commerce conversion rate. There it is, by source. Make some adjustments to my formatting here so everybody can see this on the screen, a little tight. But you can see your top sources of traffic and conversion rates here. And so with an e-commerce site, the importance being in driving people to make a purchase, there's really two major steps in the path to purchase process. There's the part in which you are, you're browsing around, looking at products, adding to cart. And that's a very important part, is getting people to add to cart. The other very critical piece is the checkout process. So once you have somebody engage with your site, showing intent to purchase by adding to cart, and have added to cart, you want to do your very best to make sure that they can complete a purchase and that there's no friction in the checkout process, no issues or errors that are preventing the person from proceeding to complete a checkout. And that can be challenging. A Yahoo Store site in itself is pretty well designed for conversions, but there are some areas of opportunity that can take place. Some that are outside of just the store's configuration, such as shipping rates. Those can be major deterrents, but also they can also be enablers for improving your conversion rates based on competition, based on rates general to pricing of product. There could be payment options that can have an effect, both positive and negative on conversion rates, such as if you offer multiple payment options such as PayPal or other payment methods that people prefer. And then finally, just the messaging on the cart itself during checkout. So if there's an error that takes place, being able to point to that error and explain what to do to overcome that error is very essential for people so that they can be informed along the way of how to complete the whole process and complete a purchase, as well as credibility indicators and security measures that people trust, such as security symbols for showing that there's a secure checkout process and that data won't be compromised, their credit card won't be compromised in any way as a result of making a purchase on your website. So I'm now going to talk about how you can actually measure the checkout process each step of the way. And the first thing we want to do is we want to go into Google Analytics and we want to configure what is a goal. So there's a goals section in Google Analytics that allows you to configure and report on goals. And it's in the conversion section next to the e-commerce reporting. There's a goals overview. And if you haven't set it up, this is the screen you'll get. But I will show you an account that actually does have Google Analytics goal tracking in place. We actually just set this one up the other day. That allows you to see the checkout conversion rate process here on this site. So we can see how many people entered the shopping cart, how many went to the shipping and billing page, how many reviewed and completed a purchase. So this is very valuable information to identify opportunities to say, where are we seeing issues in the checkout process here? If 35 people added a cart, but only 8 purchased, a 19% conversion rate, that's quite a bit drop-off. That means only 1 in 5 people that add to cart are making a purchase on this site right now. By the way this reporting reports is in the middle for each step, as we will configure for Marcia's website, a goal funnel. In the middle, you see each of the steps. There's the shopping cart, the shipping and billing page, the review page, and finally the completed purchase page. On the left of each of these is the top 5 pages that people came to the shopping cart from. And on the right, it shows the number of people who did not proceed to the next step, in this case 11. And if they didn't go to the next step, what did they do? Of which out of this 11, 4 exited the site altogether, 2 went to a different page on the site, 2 went to another checkout page, I believe this is, 1 went to the home page, and 1 went to another product page here. Similarly, for shipping and billing page, you can see the top pages that people came to that didn't come directly from the shopping cart page. So maybe they went into some checkout pages and then proceeded to shipping and billing. We had one person enter the site from here, which is kind of interesting. And one came from a product page. After adding the cart, they clicked on the checkout button and they came back into the checkout process. On the shipping and billing page, however, we do see 9 people exited out of 31. So that's a pretty high number there of people that abandoned during checkout for some reason or another, and others that went to other pages and didn't complete the purchase process. Good to see that nobody on the review page exited, so they were pleased with what they saw after entering their information and reviewing, and then finally 8 completed the purchase. So all this reporting, by the way, is not out of the box. You actually have to configure this because Google Analytics doesn't know your cart, doesn't know your checkout process, and you have to educate Google Analytics with this information to be able to provide this type of reporting. And we're going to actually do that right now by leveraging the setup in this Yahoo Store for the one that we have the ability to set up goals on for the very first time for Sweet Dreams My Child. So if you go into the admin of your account, you're able to see a section. By the way, this is where you would end up in your account if you clicked on admin. On the right-hand side, you would see a section called goals. You can create what's called a new goal. When you do create a new goal, you have a couple choices for the type of goal you would like to create. You have a destination, which, by the way, is the one we're going to select today because we want people to get to a certain destination, the checkout page on the site. You could have a duration, so if a certain amount of time on the site elapsed, you could call that a goal. And that's pretty typical for not so much an e-commerce type site, but more for a content site. Somebody who makes money by having people spend a lot of time on their site. That provides typically revenue via advertising on the site. Similarly, pages and screens per session. This is more for people that need a certain number of page views per session as a goal. Not so much an e-commerce client, but more for a content site or an event. And we won't probably have enough time to talk about events today in this short amount of time, but events are something such as like if you played a video or some sort of interaction within a page. So we're going to jump into this. We're going to call this completed purchase. Give it a name. We're going to click on the destination, click on the next step, and then for Yahoo Store sites, what we want to do is we want to find something in the URL that's common for only that URL. And just from my experience with working at Yahoo Stores, I know that the end of this section ID equals ysco.cart is what we want to add as the URL. Now, to make things a little more challenging, we need to use in the destination regular expression. The reason being, without getting into too much detail here, is we need to find this pattern in the URL, but in the other options, be either being equals to. We can't use equals to because there is a session ID in here that's dynamic. It's not always the same. If we use begins with, we would also run into the issue where the URL begins with all this, but then it hits this session ID. And since the pattern that we're looking for, YSCO card, is at the end, we use what's called regular expression. And because we use regular expression, we actually have to escape all periods with a backslash here. So yeah, it's a little bit challenging here, but once you see this in action and set up, you can leverage it for your store. So this is this is actually not the right URL. The funnel we create starts with the cart, and that page equals the cart page. The goal actually is the confirmation page. So this is the URL you would hit if you actually complete a purchase. And since we're not going to complete a purchase, yeah, you would just have to check this for yourself to confirm that. So going over to this account to leverage their settings and making sure that for Sweet Dreams My Child, they have the similar URL structure. There is this shipping page with billing information as well. And I see at the end of this, section ID equals ship bill. So it's a one-page checkout. So we're going to call this one-page checkout. Here's the URL, escaping the period. And there should be a review page, as we can see, and then finally the confirmation page. So I'm going to put the review in here. Here's the URL. And so we have 3 steps: the cart page, the one-page checkout, the review, and then finally the confirmation page. And we're done. We create this goal, and we are good to go. And by the way, you could verify this goal just to see. It's always nice to verify. You can see that there was a 0.35% conversion rate based on this data for the last 7 days. So that's good. We know we're going to see some data come through. And by the way, once you create a goal, it is not retroactive in a sense that it will not backfill these fields with data going back a certain amount of time. It starts populating this report from this point forward. So if I go into the reporting under goals and in the funnel visualization report, I can see this goal has been created with the steps that I just created: shopping cart, one-page checkout, review, and completed purchase. But there's no data up until now. And so this will start filling in over time. So Marcia, you can monitor this now starting from this point forward, and you can observe and see if there's any opportunities to make any improvements. And by the way, since we did make a change to Google Analytics, if you haven't used annotations, we'll go to today's date. I'll add this annotation in here for today's date. And I actually need to do it in another section where there's a date that I can select. Let me see if I can do this another way. Oh, look at that. Let's see here. You know what? I may not actually have annotation access. I may have only gotten a certain level of access where I can't annotate. But if you work with annotations, you can click on the button here and typically add an annotation. Ah, there we go. Actually, let me to. I couldn't click on the button. So I'm going to say goal funnel for completed purchase. Went live today. I'm going to make it shared so that since I was given access to this account, I'm not logging in with Marcia's login. This is shared with her and anybody else that has access to her account. If I only wanted this annotation with my login only stored, then I would mark it private. So there it is. Okay, and you can just see this little annotation in the corner here, but over time this annotation will show up along the bottom, and so that you can see that, click on it, and be notified that this change took place. So that's how you set up a goal funnel in Google Analytics for completed checkout. Is there any questions related to that?
I think the only question we had was this going to be replayed or saved? And yes, absolutely. I know we're covering a lot, and I am so grateful. Thank you so much for being here today and doing this with us. We just love this kind of stuff, so thank you, thank you, thank you. And yes, we are recording, and I'll make sure that everybody gets a copy. One of the notices that I just got this morning was that there's something wrong with our email system, that everybody got a notice a day late. So if you're listening to this recording, I'll just say sorry. And now I'm going to mute myself since everybody else is good and let you keep going.
Sounds good. All right, yeah. So we have about 20, 25 minutes left here, and we're going to keep running along here at a pretty swift pace here because we could spend all day in this account making changes and making observations too, but with a limited time, let's see what else we can do here. Okay, so one of the other things that we talked about in yesterday's session was the value of being able to report site search. So if somebody's on your website, it's very valuable information to know what they're searching for. Let's say if they search for a crib for 1-year-old, and they perform this search here. it'd be very, very valuable to be able to know what people are searching for, because I can give you insights into what people are looking for on your site, maybe things that they're looking for that you don't carry, or maybe things that you considered carrying but you just didn't know if there was demand for it. So it can provide quite a bit of information. There's a configuration setting in Google Analytics that actually will let you see this. And let me see where it is. You have to find the query parameter that precedes your search. So I search for crib for 1 year old. And there's a query parameter right before that called actually query. So I'm going to go into the Google Analytics account here in the admin. Under settings, you will see towards the bottom on the settings, there's site search tracking, which is currently disabled. I'm going to enable it. And I have to add the query parameter that precedes the search, and I've done that, and I'm good to go. The site search categories, by the way, is not something that's available in the Yahoo Store. I actually haven't seen a whole lot of stores that have the site search categories available. I don't know how much value that is, but here's how you configure your Yahoo Store. Almost, I think every Yahoo Store I've looked at, unless it's got a custom search function, there are some custom search vendors out there that may have a different query parameter, and you can ask them for it or just perform a search like I did and find the. It's always the right before the equal sign in your search term when you complete it, when you enter a search. It's the parameter right before that, in this case, query. I've saved that. And now when I go into reporting, in the behavior section, under site search, this will start populating with search terms. And we'll be able to see what people are searching for, whether or not they converted, what if they proceeded through the website, or did they abandon because the search didn't yield any results. Very powerful information here. So we've just configured two things in Marsha's website. That is goal funnel and site search. So let's continue, because I know there's another feature here that, actually two more, that I think it could be valuable to her. The next one is demographics. So demographics recently rolled out. In this particular site, there is a demographic and interest report that becomes available as soon as you add the tracking code and you validate it. And this particular account is using what's called, I noticed, Universal Analytics, which should be supported very shortly. I think they're actually, Google Analytics is in the process of making Universal Analytics compatible with demographics and interest reports. So Marsha, I would just suggest any day now you should get an email from Google Analytics saying that demographics and interest reports are supported by Universal Analytics, and you can go in and validate and confirm. So we'll have to wait on that one, but at least we gave it a try. For anybody out there that is not using Universal Analytics, there are instructions for how to update even your old tracking code to support demographic and interest reports. And they're pretty straightforward instructions on how to set that up. But yeah, it's very powerful information that you can use to determine people that, and how this is used, it's people that are logged into their Google accounts, that have Google Plus accounts, that have provided some of their demographic information, such as their age, such as their, whether they're male or female, their sex, and some of their interests that they've expressed will be shared with you. They can be insightful to you. Okay, the last thing I noticed that we could set up, actually I should say maybe there's two. Let me take a look. Cost analysis. So cost analysis is very powerful in that it allows you to see your return on investment from paid search campaigns or any type of paid traffic. That can be very insightful so that you can determine if you're making profit after advertising for a particular channel. And this can all be imported into Google Analytics. Your Google AdWords, since it's a Google product, will automatically be integrated into this cost data import because it's a Google product. So I'm just going to click Get Started. And we actually should see the AdWords data. We shouldn't have to do this for AdWords at all. It is linked. And I'll have to take a look and see why this isn't just automatically set up and running here. This should eventually populate cost data from AdWords and show the revenue data. And actually, I have a PowerPoint slide. I'll try to dig up towards the end of this presentation to actually show you kind of an example of maybe a vision for what you can use cost data import for. This is something that can allow you to share both Google, Bing, and other advertising channels side by side, so you can see which one is performing better than the others. This can be very insightful. In fact, let me dig that up. I think that's pretty important. Should just take a moment. Okay, I got to dig through a presentation here to find the slide. There it is. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, ROI by sales channel. So this is kind of a model for what would be a very, very robust type reporting environment in the cost data section. You can have your Google CPC data, where you can see your visits, your impressions, your clicks, your cost, your ROI for this particular channel. And you could compare it to Bing CPC data by ROI. If you're advertising on eBay, it used to be shopping.com, but now is an eBay product, you can have that cost there. You could have shopping.com. I don't believe I have Yahoo Shopping in here, but I know that's integrated with Yahoo Stores. But that would be another one you could import the cost data from. So by having all this cost data next to each other with ROIs, you can actually see where if one of these particular channels is having a higher ROI than others, it's a good opportunity to say, well, you know what I should do? And by the way, this is just an example. This isn't real data. Maybe I should take the shopping.com data, the cost or the spend that I spent here that didn't result in a positive ROI, and move that into Bing, which has got the highest ROI, so I can maximize my return on investment. That would be a good strategy in a sense when you can see all your different channels, their costs and their revenue. So how do you bring in the cost data? That is actually, it's a challenge. You can assemble the cost data. In some cases, as I mentioned, Google CPC will be automatic. The others require you to upload via the Google Analytics API that cost data. So it's kind of like e-commerce tracking. There's instructions, and if you want to spend a lot of time doing it, you can. Or you can stay in touch with us, because we're going to be rolling out the Bing cost data import any day now, and we're going to be ramping this product up. It's called Analytics Importer, and it's going to provide cost data for all these different channels as well. eBay, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of those different channels that people may be advertising on. We're going to be able to import that cost data into Google Analytics and be able to share with you that cost data across all these channels and to assess the ROI. So stay tuned with that. Announcements coming soon as to when this product will be available. Okay, so that's one of the additional ones. I think we have everything else we need now to start digging into this report. And so, Marcia gave me some feedback on some of the challenges she was facing with her site, so we're actually going to dig into that. So first of all, I'm going to show you, to me, what are, I would say, the top 2 reports in Google Analytics. The one that I always jump to first whenever I dive into anybody's account is under acquisition, the all traffic report. The value of this report, which I actually showed at the beginning of this session, is you can see your top sources of traffic, and it is sorted by sessions initially, but you can sort in any way you want. You can see your top sources of traffic, their metrics such as new visitors, their bounce rate, average session duration, pages per visit, And then your revenue data, transactions and revenue. Excuse me. This is very powerful in that it gives you a quick snapshot of your top sources of traffic, in this particular case Google CPC, and then how that traffic is performing in terms of converting for you. And it also identifies what sources of traffic may be your best in terms of trying to ramp up some more traffic for them because they're converting better. So if I were to sort by e-commerce conversion rate, I can get in a descending order that embed.lexi.com referral, which I'm not quite familiar with what this is, has the highest conversion rate. Now, from this, I would want to say, well, how can I get more traffic from this website? I'd want to do a little investigation and figure out, is this a site where I have control of the link from that site to mine? Or is there something else I could do? Maybe I could contact that website directly and say, hey, thanks for the link to my site. How can we make it more prominent? Or how can I add more links from your site to mine because they're very complementary and it's driving a good chunk of revenue to us? The second top source is called Direct None. That's people that have either typed in your URL directly to your site or they have you bookmarked. So you would typically expect that traffic to convert pretty well because they had to know you from before and they're coming directly to you. Unless they did some sort of if you did some sort of an advertisement via a mailer or newsletter or a radio or television advertising where people would actually type in your URL. So for this particular website, we don't have much other history, and I am going back just to this month. So maybe I'll take it back a little bit further. And let's go back into the holiday season here because there may be some additional traffic we can look at that may be able to allow us to gather a little bit more information on these top sources. Okay, so Calabex.com had only one person referred, but they converted, which is a great conversion rate. But yeah, you have to take into consideration that we're only looking at a small number of visitors here, so it could be chance luck that they converted that high, but the only way to tell would be is to drive more traffic from those sites. The number 3 entry is actually what's called an internal referral from the website itself. That's due to some tracking issues with the site that are causing, many of you may have seen this if you are not have the proper linking code on your site, that in some cases you'll see only all revenue coming from your website itself or your checkout pages. But going down the list here, we can see Facebook drove a 3.5% conversion rate, which is excellent. That's only 57 visits. Here's an opportunity to possibly do more social media, public relations work, or just communications to an audience to try to drive more traffic to the site since it does convert so well. And there's some other traffic in here as well. But this is to me the number 1 report because it tells you, first of all, what are your top sources of traffic and how they're converting. In this particular case, Google CPC converting at a 0.1% conversion rate, which I would expect is not profitable just because of the cost per click required to drive that traffic. The revenue and the average order value may not be there. By the way, if we want to get into deeper e-commerce reporting, in the same report, you can click on this e-commerce sub-tab, and it can give you only e-commerce metrics beyond the visit sessions, the revenue, transactions, average order value, e-commerce conversion rate, and what's called a per session value. Think of the per session value when you're looking at CPC is you take a look at your average CPC for this traffic. If it's lower than the per session value, the per session revenue on average you've obtained, then you are being profitable. But you have to consider your cost of goods too to make sure that you're actually being profitable in this particular case. So if we wanted to, we could click on Google CPC. We could secondarily dimension on campaign to see the different campaigns that Marcia has on her AdWords account to see how those different campaigns are performing. And we're actually going to continue down this chain not only to campaign, but ad group, and then finally keyword, so we can really get down to the micro details. So we can see that the product listing ads are a majority of her traffic. And she'd mentioned that product listing ads work well for her before they turned into a pay-per-click model. And once they went to pay-per-click, they became more challenging. And we see that. We see that product listing ads are more challenging these days now that there's a pay-per-click model, but they are very rich ads and they can be optimized to be profitable. And we've seen plenty of people be successful with that strategy. There is a campaign here that's called not set. There's only a small amount of traffic. This could be some old latent traffic from a campaign that maybe had not been established before the linking between analytics and AdWords took place. So, if this is a high number, I'd be concerned about it, but 18 out of 19,000, that's a pretty small number. And then there's some additional campaigns here with limited traffic. So it's really about the product listing ads at this point. Typically, we'd be able to drill down any campaign down to the ad group and keyword level, but with product listing ads, they function a little bit differently, and we're not able to see that level of detail. We can with the new features in product listing ads that just rolled out, I think about a month or two ago. You can get down to the SKU level. There's some integration with analytics that are taking place right now that are going to enhance that. AdWords is a pretty good interface right now for looking at product listing ads and trying to find what products are driving the most spend and, in addition, the most revenue there, too, as well. So
now, one of the things Marcia just mentioned is that her tracking right now is not working for her CPC that she's doing on Google, and that was a big concern, was that it wasn't pulling in all the information.
Gosh, yeah, Marcia, I think we would have to probably do something offline to try to discover what the issue is there, because I see that it appears that AdWords and analytics are integrated and everything should be reporting properly. It could be a case where we would want to investigate the destination URLs to make sure that they're set correctly in your product listing ads data feed. But maybe there's something we can do offline to take a look at this and try to dig in and get to the bottom of the problem there. And we may have to go into AdWords and do that as well. So, with limited time left, I just wanted to go into some additional reports here where you can get the most value out of your data. So the e-commerce report under conversions is very valuable in showing you your revenue, your e-commerce conversion rate over time. So what I'd like to do here is actually, instead of select by day, but go by month, so we can take a look at the last several months in the e-commerce conversion rate, which has been somewhat flat. That's good. Hasn't dipped down. We can look at the revenue over time. As we can see, it picked up in February. So there's some good, helpful overview information here. And you can see some top products here. So you can actually go into the product performance report. If you have the e-commerce reporting enabled, you can see your top products that were sold, the quantities. You may wonder, okay, this is interesting. These products were sold, but how did people find my website for each of these products? I'm really curious about the Go Fish Ocean Blue Crib set. How do people find that? You can secondarily dimension on source and medium for each product to actually discover how those people found your website. And so we do see from Google CPC that the wallpaper border, Joe Designs, was found via Google CPC. So maybe there's a product in a product listing ads campaign that brought that traffic in. We can also see that some organic traffic brought in another wallpaper border. So then a lot of direct traffic would bring this traffic in here. So there's some ways you can discover, for example, for this organic traffic, what is the ranking for this particular keyword search? If I did a Google search for maybe this whole product, how would her site line up with the competition there? That can be insightful to say, is there some SEO opportunities that may make drive more traffic here? So if I did a search exactly for that search keyword, and people may have searched it in a little bit different way, we may be able to see where she lines up. And I don't see her. So this is number 8. We could actually segment on keyword, but we may not see anything. Yeah, I think it's not set. And the reason being is the person that did the Google organic search was logged into their Google account, and we can't see the search query, unfortunately. So yeah, e-commerce can be very insightful. You can drill down and discover what products are their best sellers and how people found your site to buy those best sellers. Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. I really focused really tightly on some of the best e-commerce reporting there, but I do want to save a couple minutes for any Q&A. in the last couple of minutes here, just so we can answer any questions that anybody may have in regards to what we've talked about so far, or just some last-minute thoughts or questions related to using Google Analytics to improve your business. Are there any questions out there?
I think you have covered everything. I know that I was hoping that we could also show them a little bit about the Power My Analytics, because it's wow. It's just it's so much easier. So much easier. So if you've got some time, I would love for you to just kind of show them what that all looks like. And because Julie's saying it's a lot to absorb all at once, and we so get that. We understand that. This is like numbers, and it's crazy. So we do understand that part of it. But if you do have more questions, throw them in here, and I'll ask him while he kind of gives us a preview, because I think you guys will love what you see. So I'll go back on mute and let you take it away.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, great. Let's go to our website. So Power My Analytics is a software as a service company that derived from our ideas that we've used being in using Google Analytics now for myself over 10 years, when it actually wasn't even Google Analytics. Before it was Google Analytics, it was called Urchin. And I've been using this product since it was Urchin, and then transitioned to Google Analytics in 2005. So these are just the brainchild of a lot of products that enhance online marketers, online merchandisers to be able to get the most out of their Google Analytics reporting. So we include such capabilities as Analytics Importer, which I talked about, which is very soon to roll out, cost data imports from Bing and other channels so that you can push that all into Google Analytics, like I've shown in this slide here. You can see all your different channels' cost information and ROI, which is a big snapshot. It really allows you to take action, because you can see who's making you money, who's not making you money, and even drill down into the details to figure out, is there any hope to optimize one of these particular channels that isn't profitable, or no, should I just take all this money and move it into one of these more profitable channels here? So that's one of the products that we provide. In addition, we have call tracking, which is very valuable in the sense that for anybody out there that does take a lot of phone orders, as soon as the phone rings, the conversion rates are typically pretty high, and the average order values are pretty high. However, the visibility of where that call came from, where that visitor came from that made the call, that gets lost, because you typically place your order in a back-end system, or you just place it offline altogether. However, we have some call tracking solutions that allow you to actually see down to the keyword level, even the search query, what people searched on to find your website, and push that data into Google Analytics so you can see it. You can segment on it and see all your call traffic versus non-call traffic. But ultimately, to be able to show a higher ROI from your paid search channels as a result of phone calls, which can have a substantial impact. They may make or break your decision-making around, is this paid search channel working or not? If I had my call tracking traffic, I might be able to say yes. And we have other features as well. We've got one that I really like is called Concierge, which is a free product, which actually monitors your Google Analytics integration, and if there's something broken, alerts you. Now, I would say that 100% of all Google Analytics integrations break at some point. In the case for Marcia, she even mentioned that hers broke recently when she made some changes. It's just the nature of the game. Something gets in the system, whether it be an update to the website, a change in the site, or a change in the code, it causes a breakage. And Concierge will alert you about that and even give you some insight as to what to do to fix it. That's very insightful, and it keeps you running right and accurately in Google Analytics so that you don't lose some data and you're sidetracked and you're not able to continue to use that data to drive your business. So those are just some of the products that Power Analytics is rolling out or has rolled out, and there's going to be many more to come over time.
I had to find my unmute.
Sure. I think we've hit our, Sean, I think we've hit our time limit today, but if there's any additional questions or comments, be happy to answer.
Actually, Julie wanted to know, what would you consider like down and dirty, quick look at analytics that would give you the most benefit? Would it be that the analyzer you were looking at, would that be your biggest one?
It would be, Julia. If I had 10 seconds to look at an account, a really sneak peek, the all traffic report is definitely the one I'd want to look at. This one gives me the biggest, quickest snapshot of. This tells me my top sources of traffic, and then the revenue associated with all that traffic. So that would be my number one report to look at with the quickest, most bang for the buck.
Yeah, and that especially looking at, the Google cost per click. I mean, if you're spending $500 and the revenue only shows $150, this report right here will give you, you'll be able to look at some of that information, and unfortunately we do see that. You'll look at the analytics and you'll see you spent $1,000 and maybe you only had $150 in sales, and now you know, okay, that's not working. Yes, it's gotten you lots of traffic, but traffic doesn't matter, and that's not a lot of new store owners. I think they focus on how much traffic they're getting into the site instead of focusing on how much money are they making.
Exactly, yeah. At the end of the day, it's all about, especially as a small to medium business, the cash flow. And if the cash isn't flowing in but it's flowing out, you got to stop the leak, and this is the best way to find where the leak is.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, Joan, I think it was asking about kind of like the beginner analytics that we discussed. And if you go to webmasterradio.fm, click on the Ecom Experts link, you can catch the webinar from yesterday. It was a really great interview that I did with Morgan, who was just wonderful, answering all of our questions and really helped to, define really what Google Analytics is and how it works and what it does and how it can help you. So highly recommended. And as a matter of fact, if you go to our blog, which is blog.onechoiceforyourstore.com, it's got a couple of different links. And if this is, if you do want to try the software, which kind of hooks up everything and gets, so that you can look at this data, instead of having that 14-day trial, they've been so gracious to offer the 30-day. And so we'll send that out. We'll send that link over to you guys when we send you guys the link for the replay, because I know when it comes to setting up stuff like this, you want to watch the replay and hit pause and then hit play and hit pause again, and we'll make sure that you have that, and we'll get that email out to all of you. Absolutely. And then for those of you who are listening to the recording, I'm so glad that you could and that we were able to do this today. And we might have to say, Morgan, we're gonna need you back in a couple of weeks and go over some more good analytics.
There's always more to talk about, Sean. I'll be happy to do so.
Oh, that is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Well, thank you for putting up with me today on the road and helping us to get started today. I do apologize to all of you for that, but I just appreciate you guys so much being here. And if you guys are in our group coaching or our Yahoo Store class, I will get to see you guys tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be going into more good stuff that we got to be looking at. And Morgan, thank you again. Thank you again so very much.
It's my pleasure, Shauna. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.